Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Roberta Garceau. She is a transformational speaker, best-selling author, and holistic wellness expert. And I will learn from her how to reset one's energy, reframe stress, and reclaim joy through her elemental wellness approach. Welcome to the show, Roberta.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to talk about wellness and burnout prevention.
Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about bliss, a lot, how one can avoid burnout. We'll talk all about this and also about your book. But before that, let's understand a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
So my primary job or profession is being a dentist. And so I've always had a very comprehensive approach to wellness and holistic. In other words, the teeth and gums are not separate from the rest of the body. And that certainly it's well accepted now that your overall health is connected to your oral health quite intimately. And what I found was that as a dentist running my practice when I was in my 30s and I was the mother of young children, that I was burning the candle at every end, not even just at both ends, and just going from one thing to the next, stressed about the business aspect of my dental practice. We were doing some renovations. There was literally a lot of commotion and disruption to things. And so communication had kind of gone by the wayside between myself and my partner. So what I found was that I ended up physically sick. And I realized immediately when I needed emergency surgery that this was my own doing primarily, right? That we can make ourselves very, very sick when we fall into the trap of burnout. And I realized I needed to do some things differently in life. That has been a journey. It's not like I learned straight away and right away overnight, everything changed. Well, that would be a nice story. That's more of like a fairy tale, right? But it's not what actually happened. What actually happened is that over time, I realized I had been putting everyone else's needs before mine. And I'd been getting caught up in the go, do, hustle and bustle. That's pretty common these days, no matter what sector you work in, no matter whether you're a parent or not, whether you're caring for your aging parents or not, whether you're even in the workforce anymore or not. There's just so much that comes at us. And over time, I became a certified yoga and Ayurveda instructor, and I learned the tools of presence and breath and self-regulation. And, it's not what's popular to just take a pill, one quick fix, and it'll all go away. It'll all be better magically. Lasting results don't usually work that way, right? So it's really been a process of very small incremental changes over time, using all the things that I talk about in my book, Bliss, Not Burnout. It was written for healthcare providers with the caveat that we are all healthcare providers at one point or another in our lives. Again, whether we're caring for a parent, a partner, a child, or a friend, we all find ourselves in that role. And the role is putting others before ourselves. It's just not sustainable. It's noble, and we do that in certain roles because it's necessary. And in order to continue to be able to do that, to be able to continue to provide care for others, it is imperative that we care for ourselves. And so that's the crux of what I've learned of my journey, and what I share in my book is really, it's about self-awareness, so that from there we can begin to care for ourselves in new and better ways.
Absolutely, absolutely, Roberta. So, from your story itself, we'll come to the book separately after this. But first, from your story itself, did you have an understanding at that point in time that you are moving towards burnout or some sort of a feeling? And then once you understood it well, how did you start retracing your steps? How did you start coming out of that? I want to understand that for the audience. Why? Because a lot of people must be at that point in time, and that is what will help them from your story. You know about these things. Later, you wrote a book also. So that is where your wisdom will help them straightway from the ground.
Right. And that's a really great point. You know, did I have a feeling that I was out of balance? Did I have a feeling that I was careening towards burnout? I should have. One would think I did, right? Part of the problem is that sometimes we can get going on all cylinders, just moving so fast from one thing to the next, that we become disembodied. We're really not aware of how off balance we are. Do we have an inkling or an idea? Yes, yes. And I did. I knew that I was tired. I knew that I was stressed. I just didn't realize how badly until it came to a head. And so, what I teach is becoming more self aware before it gets to that point, before you're burnt out, before you're physically ill, before you're mentally depressed or out of control anxious. Really recognizing these signs ahead of time. And how do we do that? By one thing that I realized too is that I needed to ask for help. When you feel like you don't have time to exercise or eat nutritiously or sleep, or you don't have time for your friends or your hobbies or the things that you enjoy, those are the signs that things are out of balance. And so a great way to check in with yourself is to just notice your breath in any moment of the day. Like, breath is magical because breath is something that happens automatically through your autonomic nervous system. So you don't have to think about it, right? When you're sleeping, your breath carries on, well, most of the time just fine, except for people who have sleep-related breathing disorders, which I also am passionate about helping people. But for the most part, we breathe without thinking about it. But we can flip that coin and harness a superpower by controlling our breath. So the first part is becoming aware of the breath, right? Just notice at any moment, how am I breathing? Have I slumped over? Are my ribs collapsed? Are my shoulders forward? Is my breathing very shallow? Is it shallow and rapid? That might indicate that I'm nervous or anxious, right? Is it just out of my chest and I'm not using my whole torso or expanding my whole body, right? These are things that help us to begin to tune in to what's going on. And what you might notice when you just pause to notice your breath without judging it, right? Just noticing exactly as it exists in that moment, you may become more aware of other sensations like, oh, I'm holding tension in my jaw, or, oh, my belly is tight, or, I've got a little kink in my neck or my back or my hips or shoulders. And just that practice of witnessing, observing, can bring you back to your body. And that's the beginning of the awareness, because you cannot possibly take care of yourself if you're not aware in the first place. Right? The whole message of Bliss Not Burnout is self-awareness first. And I do teach that more throughout the book by awareness of the elements and, combining and massaging traditional wisdom through Ayurveda with more modern medicine and science, and seeing how the two marry each other, that one is not better than the other, one does not debunk the other, but that we can have a more holistic perspective, a holistic view of wellness and care for ourselves. And then we're more available to others.
Absolutely, absolutely, Roberta. Now let's come to your book, Bliss, Not Burnout, Hope for Healthcare Providers. So, is it for healthcare providers or is it for everyone? Who is the target audience here? Then we'll come to what is in the book.
It is absolutely for everyone. Again, because we are all in the position at one point or another in our lives of caring for others, of providing care for others. And in the book, I did do some research and surveys and interviews with people who work in healthcare professions across North America and in all different sectors, whether they are physicians or nurses' aides or funeral directors, or they're in the administrative end of things with billing and insurance benefits and such. And I compiled all of the interviews and have some interesting takeaways of the challenges that are really universal to all of us. And I also included in there not just my story, but also the stories of so many of the beautiful people who shared their challenges and their victories with me. So it's not all doom and gloom, right? It's not all burnout. I included in there the stories of people who told me about the power of connection, how it just simple things like having a coffee with a coworker or scheduling time outside of work to get together helped build teamwork and camaraderie, and they felt more supported at work. It also talked about whether you're in the workforce or some of these folks were retired, about finding meaning and purpose through connection, right? Whether that's volunteer work or continuing working in some capacity, but giving of yourself in a healthy way so that you still have something left for yourself, but finding purpose and meaning in your life. And there's so many other things, how not just the breath and stretching and yoga and exercise, but also nutrition. They've included other things like hobbies and interests that help them to feel more healthy and be more resilient and more joyous at the end of the day. So the book truly is for everyone. And my hope is that anyone who reads it can find even just a little something. Because you may say, well, that's nice that you wrote a book about burnout. Really, it's about bliss, not burnout. But I think I'm doing okay. I don't think I need that. That's for somebody else. And my response is, who wouldn't want to live just 5 or 10% more well, right? Just tweak it up a little bit. Who wouldn't want that? And so I include so many simple, free tips and strategies that you can implement immediately. Little mindfulness breaks, breathing, mini meditations, things that might seem a little out there or for someone else, but things you can do while you're commuting, things that you can do while you're waiting on a line, things that you can share with others, things you can do for yourself. So truly, so many tips and strategies for everyone. And in Bliss Not Burnout, not only do I include those strategies, but there's also, here we go, color photos of exercises, stretches, breath work, complete classes to help with wellness and to self-regulate. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? We're all going to have those stressors. The stressors may not really change appreciably, but what can change is how we respond to those stressors.
Absolutely, absolutely, Roberta. So two things here. One is the about the elemental wellness you talk about, and you also talked about Ayurveda. When did you come across Ayurveda, and how did you, how did it come into your life, or did you went into the life of Ayurveda? I want to understand, and then how did you inculcate it for others? Have you mentioned about that in the book also?
Yes, I love it. So a little bit of both, right? I'm going to go way back. I first dabbled in yoga, oh gosh, 25 to 30 years ago. And I did it for physical reasons. At the time, I thought, oh, I'm a dentist. And in my family, there are a lot of problems and issues with back health. So I'm going to try yoga as a way to strengthen my core and protect my back. That was my initial interest, right? So I tried some classes. They were, I liked them okay here and there. And then I started to have my family, time got tighter, and I couldn't get to a class. So it was back in the day where we all used DVDs, and I got some DVDs, and I would just practice those for 25, 30 minutes once or twice a week in my basement before the children got up. And I thought, I'm surely going to get bored of these in a month or two. And I didn't. I used them for years. And one day I found, wow, that was the best massage I've ever had. And I gave it to myself through yoga, right? And I began to feel the benefits, more focus, more relaxation, more self-awareness and control. Over time, I was called, yes, it found me. I was called to become a yoga instructor. It truly was like, being called to be a spiritual leader or something. It just was like, this is what I must do. And at first I said, that's ridiculous. I can't devote a month of my life to becoming a yoga teacher. I have a dental practice. I have patients who rely on me. I have a family who needs me. I can't take off that time. But I did find a way to take off the time in pieces and became a certified yoga instructor. And then about 5 years ago, this crazy phenomenon called a pandemic happened, right? And so I am a lifelong learner, and all of the learning opportunities in person closed down, right? No one was traveling. We weren't meeting in person. And I was still hungry to learn something. So I looked online for classes where I got my yoga certification at the Kripalu Institute in Massachusetts in the United States. And they offered the marriage of yoga, uniting, excuse me, not marriage. In my mind, it is a marriage. They offered a course online, Uniting Yoga and Ayurveda. And I had gotten pieces of Ayurveda in my yogic studies, since Ayurveda is the science of life and it's considered the sister science to yoga. But this was a little bit more. And after I completed that course, there was an offering to do a 200-hour course in the foundations of Ayurveda. And I was like, no way, I'm busy. I don't have time for this. And then again, it found me, it called me. And 2 days before the course began, I signed up, and it has been life-changing because I truly view myself and the world through a different lens. Again, more holistically, through the 5 elements, if we want to talk about that. And that is how I came up with the name Elemental Wellness. It means 2 things. One, it derives from the 5 great elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas of Ayurveda. And the other, which is the way that the whole world is seen and viewed, through that everything is composed of the 5 great elements to a greater or lesser degree. And then the other piece is that I believe that wellness is elemental. It is both profound and simple, or elemental, at the same time. So it was a double entendre. It's a double meaning of elemental wellness. And that's really the foundation of everything that I teach.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's much to learn and understand about all this from you, Roberta, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about you, about yoga, about Ayurveda, and also about your book, Bliss Not Burnt Out. What is the best way for them to do so?
So the quickest way is to go on Amazon, and you can purchase Bliss Not Burnout. It has all my contact information. Another way is to go to my website, www.drrobertagarceau.com. So just the spelling of my name with no punctuation or periods or anything. And there you can sign up for twice monthly newsletters. You can find connections to me at My Yoga Joy on Facebook and Instagram, where I put twice weekly either stretches or breath work or an inspiration or just a little positivity in your life. It's just a little present, a little gift of positivity a couple times a week, a couple times a month that's absolutely free. And I'm not trying to sell you anything there. So you can reach me lots and lots of ways. And I do hope to see folks. And, if you sign up, when you sign up for those things, you'll get information on upcoming classes, either online or masterclass workshops that I'll be offering in the future, or other places where I'm teaching and presenting. So all good stuff. No hard sells.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.